Can't see anything. What's happened?
Good morning, Sarah.
Hello, sorry. Hello, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you? Sorry, I was
Oh,
on mute.
okay, no, it's fine. Thank you so much. How is the UK?
It's okay. Tired today.
The
I-
weather?
it's nice today. The sun looks like it's out. Let's see. Oh, I don't know how to turn. How do you turn? Oh, I thought I had my car. Oh, I'm going to say. I don't know whether you'll be able to tell. At least the sun looks like it's out.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
just on a very
Okay, that's good.
yeah. Better.
So we now go back to business,
Okay.
deep into business. Yeah,
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
good to see you though. Yeah.
Oh, yes. I can see you now. I,
Yeah.
I I saw you though on YouTube.
Okay. How are the videos?
Good. I think was one that I watched. You must have been giving a lecture to a lot of people. It was like
Hmm.
a classroom environment.
Yeah.
So that was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. I do a lot of those.
Oh, wow.
But
Nice.
now I have to juggle my busy schedule and work schedule and what I love most,
Oh,
just
yeah.
training
No.
people around and all that. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Mm. But sometimes passion gets defeated over time
I
because of
know.
these busy schedules. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I can tell this is your passion.
You just do it not for money, just as one way just to keep yourself within lane.
That's good.
Within the right lane.
Oh, yeah.
Because because if you
That's
have
good.
idling moments, you end up start making a lot of social errors.
That's true.
Mm.
That's,
So we'll
that's
be looking at the regulated environment of financial
okay.
reporting, and I hope we'll be done today.
Okay.
Yes, we'll have to be done on this topic today, so
Oh,
that
yeah.
tomorrow we can start another topic.
Okay. Okay, great. So, I was just looking at my textbook.
Yeah, sure. So regulators and their role.
Mm-hmm.
Last time I did actually even mention on this, I said for financial reporting to thrive, there is need to have an environment that actually makes the whole that actually brings a sanity of some kind in the financial reporting environment. So you need to have regulators. These are more or less like gatekeepers. You
Okay, yeah.
have those that actually set the standards. You have those that regulate the stock market. They need to be there, and we need to know what are their roles.
Okay.
In Zambia, we have quite a number of these regulators. One, first, we have the accounting standards, like equivalent to the accounting standards board, which is our local one, which is ZICA, Zambia Institute of Chartered Accountants. They have to
Okay.
regulate the accounting environment. We have the SEC, which is Stock Exchange Commission. We have Lusaka Stock Exchange. But then what we'll be focusing on are these global
Global ones.
regulators. What do they do? What is their role? For example, the ISB, International Financial Reporting Standard, the International IFRS Foundation, we need to know what they actually do.
Okay.
Even their subcommittees, we need to know their roles. And that is what we'll be looking at.
Okay.
But first, to start with, we know that we need to have these financial statements. But these financial statements have to be prepared in an environment that is sane, like I said, in an environment that has
Yeah.
its own rules.
Rules.
For example, all limited companies, Zara, all limited companies are required by law to prepare and publish financial statements, at least on an annual basis. And the form and content of these financial statements has to be agreed upon. There must be a framework that you are going to use to guide you on how you're going to prepare these financial statements. In what form, what content should you put in? If on issues of monitoring and also the disclosures, how should it actually be packaged?
Oh, yeah.
So we need to know that there's this environment, and this environment has to be regulated by certain institutions that in the next few minutes we'll be actually deeply discussing. Many countries are using international accounting standards, the IFRS. Others that are still stubborn have adopted their own national standards. But don't be looking at the disadvantage of localizing your standards, where you are so blind to what is happening out there, and you decide that as we are going to localize these standards and we'll focus on that, you may actually end up missing a lot of things as a country.
Okay, yeah.
So on the accounting standards, we have the IFRS, which are new, transitioning into, so they're actually transitioning into this particular new space, the IFRS standards. Then we have the ISB, which are actually being phased out. But both standards, the IFRS and the IS, they are still in play, they are still being used.
Okay.
So these standards, they provide guidance as to how items should be shown in a set of financial statements. I did mention to you that it should be both in terms of monetary and any other disclosures. So there will be certain disclosures that need to be actually included in the published financial statements. Those disclosures, they are guided by these standards.
Okay.
If there's any subject that must be very easy to pass, it's financial reporting.
Really?
Why? Why? Because standards have already been created, documented. All you do is just to prescribe those standards. So it should be very easy.
Okay.
But not that easy as I'm saying.
No, that's true. So when you say financial statements are shown both in terms of monitor and what kind of disclosures? Like when they do on the financial statements where they say there was average number of employees or these were the directors at the time, what kind of
So
disclosures?
so you have disclosures, you have notes. After you've prepared, you'll see that a typical published financial statements, audited financial statements, will have the income statement, the balance sheet, the cash flow statement.
Yes.
Then in those, you also have the disclosures, notes, certain things that you may not actually have in monetary value included in your financial statements, or they could be there and you need to explain.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So these particular statements or standards are set of high value. They have to be understandable, because if you cannot understand the standards, then what you're actually going to create is a very good opportunity for misinterpretations. I've always said where there's controversy, there will be misinterpretation. So they must be understandable and enforceable.
Okay.
And that is what should actually make them to be of high quality. Because if they are not understandable, then it becomes very difficult to enforce them. Then you start questioning the quality of those standards. So it's a high quality, understandable, and enforceable.
Oh, yes.
What could be the reasons for developing these accounting standards? Why should a group of people come up with rules of engagement? Why should they do that? Why should the country decide to have its own constitution and applicable laws? It's the same reason why a professional body needs to have these standards. They need to agree on the standards that will actually govern their institution, their profession.
Okay.
So in terms of the standards, accounting standards, why are they developed? One, to reduce subjectivity. Where you do not have agreed laws and rules, you actually expand the grounds for miscommunication, misinterpretation, controversy. And where there's controversy, there's chaos.
Yes.
Sarah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you may decide whichever form that you'd want to misinterpret the standard or those rules that you have actually set for yourself, or genuinely you are just ignorant and you're misinterpreting them.
Oh, yes.
Look at, for argument's sake, look at how people have decided to misinterpret the Bible. You have
Oh,
all
yeah.
these other pastors in schools putting on nice
I know. Yeah.
shoes, crocodile shoes.
Yes.
In church, they are smarting people,
Yes,
stepping on them, pretending as if they are flying and all that,
Oh, yeah.
which is mostly different from even Islam. You find that Islam, they have these close standards and almost everyone is trying to follow them.
Oh, yeah.
The other side, you have a lot of misinterpretation. So that is how standards are. Standards are meant to reduce subjectivity. Yes, there will be one or two misinterpretations. Those misinterpretations, there are certain institutions that will be looking at. Once they see that there are misinterpretations or a variety of interpretations, they come in and again look at these standards, fix them so that you have only one version of truth.
Okay.
So one is to reduce subjectivity. Two is to achieve comparability between different organizations. We should be able to compare Microsoft with Google. We should be able to compare, for example, Zesco with Escom based on their financial statements, because they are prepared in the same environment, using the same rules, using the same laws. Then it becomes easier to compare. And these are the two fundamental reasons why standards are developed, accounting standards for this matter.
Oh, yes.
So financial statements may not be described as complying with IFRS unless they comply with all of the requirements of each applicable standard and each applicable interpretation. You cannot just cherry pick and pick one among quite a number of requirements within that standard and then say, we are actually complying with IFRS. You have to comply with everything.
Oh, yes.
So the question would be, why are financial statements useful? Can you tell me why financial statements are useful?
Are you asking me? I'm reading.
It's off the cuff. Tell me.
Oh, why they're useful?
If you are the owner of a
they-
company, why would you need to have access to the financial statements?
Sorry, there's a window. I think so. Can I just tell this man that I'm busy? I think he's coming to clean the windows. Sorry, let me just. Hello, good morning, Malcolm.
Good morning, Zara.
So you said, why are financial statements? If
Okay,
I'm
maybe the question is not well constructed. Let me ask you, if you are running a business, what would you need to have access to your financial statements?
It will show me how my company is doing, whether I'm making a profit or not. I guess I'm able to see what my cost side, that's in terms of looking at whether I'm making a profit. And then in terms of the balance sheet, I guess is to do with liquidity, a financial position in terms of in terms of my assets and liabilities, it shows me where I stand. If I went, for instance, you'd look at things like, okay, if the business stopped, would I be able to pay off all my debts? How much would I be left? Would my assets be able to cover that? I'm just guessing. Well, I'm using.
Guessing. You're not guessing, you're actually saying the truth.
Okay.
This is the reason
Yes.
why you need to have these financial statements. This is the reason why companies, even those companies, they would be investors, would want to have access to the companies that they want to invest in. They would want to check on all those parameters. How's the profitability? How's value being created? What are the risks that we may actually face if we are to acquire this business? So,
yeah.
it's issues of also comparing. Maybe they have 2, 3, 4 options that they would want to make from different companies, but they would want to buy one among all those 4 companies, and they have to make a decision. So you should be able to compare the financial statements. They should be comparable. Secondly, they should be unbiased. Because if they are biased, they will only show you a picture that you would want to see. In this case, if you're running a business, someone would want to show you that your business is doing fine. Because possibly those are the custodians of your business. They have the fiduciary right to do the correct thing, but they're doing something wrong because they want to show you that the business is doing fine.
Oh, yes.
So in any case, whatever financial statements you intend to prepare as a financial expert, make sure that they are biased. Make sure that you use the standards that would actually make your financial statements be compared with the company A, be compared with the previous performance. There should be that.
Oh, yes.
We have already mentioned why these financial statements have to be useful to the owners of the company. I did ask you a question. Why should you have access to the financial statements? And you gave me a correct response. Why you need those financial statements? Because you need to check whether value is being created. Why we invest is all about value creation.
Okay.
I can't invest a £1, and after 2 years, the value of that company is 0.95, meaning that I have lost value.
Oh, yeah.
We then now look at global harmonization of accounting standards. Why accounting standards have to be harmonized? If there are any differences, these differences must be differences that we are happy to live with. They should be minimal. So setting bounds to the degree of variation allowed in each country. It would be a beautiful world if standards across all the countries on planet Earth are harmonized.
Oh, yes.
We need to appreciate that the world now is becoming or became a global village long time ago. It's now nicely coming to that closeness is actually even more pronounced and defined today. We are seeing how the other countries are going to the BRICS. We are seeing other countries, how they are aligning themselves with the West. We are seeing these things. We're seeing how other countries, the BRICS, are trying to come up with their own much stronger currency that they'll be using for trading amongst themselves.
Oh, yes.
They're trying to harmonize all these things. It would be beautiful if the world had come up with set of rules and accounting standards that actually cut across all nations.
Oh, yeah.
Businesses are increasingly operating across national boundaries, and users need to be able to make comparisons between the financial statements of entities located in different countries. Like, it should be very easy for me to compare, for example, a company in the UK, there's a company in the USA, or
Oh,
again,
yeah.
there's a company in the Americas, in Mexico, whatever, or in Africa. It should be
Oh,
much
yeah.
easier for me. If I'm comparing Virgin Air for Richard Ransom, I should be able to look at the financial statements and compare with South African Airways, for example, or Ethiopian Airways. And that should be the beauty about harmonizing these accounting standards.
So basically, the world is now using IFRS.
IFRS.
Yes.
IFRS.
So do you use those?
Don't bite your tongue, just say IFRS.
IFRS. So do you use those as ZESCO? Those are the standards you use at ZESCO.
Yes. It's the IFRS standards where we harmonized a long time ago. Actually,
Okay.
almost all companies, all limited companies in Zambia, they are using IFRS. Not
Okay.
almost all of them, they are using IFRS.
Okay.
Long time ago, we used to have our own local standards, but it has its own disadvantage. So
Oh,
it's
yeah.
better that you use what everybody else is using out there.
Okay. Okay. Obviously, we'll get into who creates these standards.
Yes, certainly. Most
Oh,
certainly, we're actually going there.
I think my daughter, can I just open the door? I'm really sorry. I think she's upstairs. Let me tell.
So the advantages of global harmonization of accounting standards. One thing that is just clear is that if you harmonize even just a language, it has so much impact on trade. Imagine, say in Africa or Southern Africa, or just in Africa as a whole, if we're all using Swahili, it'd be much easier for people from Zambia to go and trade in Congo, to go and trade in Kenya, to trade in Uganda, to trade in Mozambique. But currently we are having these challenges. Just language, just a language has become a hindrance to regional integration. You go to Mozambique, you feel like you have gone into a different planet, on a different planet. They are speaking Portuguese there, you barely understand what they're saying. It becomes difficult. Even just recently, I was in Maputo. It was very difficult to even just ask where KFC is, for example.
Oh, really?
So meaning that it becomes difficult. Say today I decide to say, let me go and stage maybe a gig, for example, a financial modeling gig in Maputo, to go and train my brothers and sisters in Maputo in financial modeling. It will be difficult. I'll need to find an interpreter who's actually going to be interpreting. If I say raw or sell C15, should find a different word in Portuguese that actually says the same thing. So it becomes difficult. So the advantages of harmonization, in whichever form that you look at, it becomes much easier. And these are the three reasons why global harmonization of accounting standards is important. Easier transfer of accounting staff across national borders.
Oh, yeah.
Meaning that if we have Zambian accountants going to Ireland, for example, to the UK, it becomes easier because the standards that we're using here, the IFRS and IS, are similar to what are being used in the UK or in Ireland. Most importantly, even just the language itself. I'm not going to, maybe I'll try to work on my accent, maybe, and go and fake it there. But ideally, I'll still be able to communicate fluently.
Oh, yes, that's true.
So easier transfer of accounting staff across national borders. And what it does in any case, Zara, is that it does improve in terms of knowledge transfer.
Oh,
And that is very key.
okay. Oops, knowledge transfer.
So here you have one knowledge transfer, even cultural exchanges. You then now get to understand how possibly, say, for example, if Nigerians have come to Zambia,
Yes.
you are working with the Nigerians, you get to understand their cultural passwords, what makes them aggressive, how they do certain things and all that, and start comparing with yours, and maybe start tweaking, going towards their cultural beauty.
Oh, yeah.
So other than just knowledge transfer, it's also cultural integration. And this is the reason why harmonization of accounting standards must be on everyone's agenda. Because then it's easier to transfer talent from one jurisdiction to another.
Oh, yes.
Ability to comply with the requirements of overseas stock exchanges. So when they come to set up multinational companies, setting up in the UK, for example, because you have harmonized your accounting standards, and these standards as well, they are almost aligned to the foreign or international stock exchanges, such as the New York Stock Exchange, for argument's sake. It will be very easy to comply with those requirements, yet you are in a different country. In Zambia, of multinational corporations, for example, the AFPL, Glencore, and all these, they have subscribed to international stock exchanges or to overseas stock exchanges.
Oh, yeah.
But because the accounting statements are set up using these accounting standards, international accounting standards, generally accepted accounting practices, it becomes easier for that.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Thirdly, which I think is also is very much important, is accessing overseas or international financing. A country that has closed itself in the name of being patriotic or whatever, you close yourself. You say you're going to come up with your own, what you call as homegrown standards. You may just be chasing away potential investors to set up their plans, to set up their operations in your country.
Okay.
Then what it does is that, one, it actually disadvantages you on the aspect of cheaper financing. It disadvantages you in terms of accessing new investment in your country. It disadvantages you in actually making your country more visible. If you have all these biggest brands, Coca-Cola, you have, for example, you have Microsoft, you have Google, you have Facebook setting up their servers in your country, it becomes more visible.
Oh,
That's brand visibility. Then you expect that indirectly there'll be more companies that would want to set up their investments. And these companies possibly, they're following these big brands.
oh, yes.
Maybe on the supplying side, or just be next to these brands so that they also get this visibility.
Oh, yeah.
So we are talking about a transfer of staff, ability to comply with the requirements of overseas stock exchanges, better access to foreign investor funds, and brand visibility.
Oh, yeah.
The national regulators. A typical regulatory structure will certainly include national financial reporting standards, like I said, most countries have opted out of that, not having, they have opted not having their localized standards. They are using international accounting standards as their local GAAP, generally accepted accounting practice. So like here in Zambia, we do not have our own local standards. We have localized those international standards.
Okay.
Then you have a national law. We have our own company law here in Zambia. You have yours in the UK, should be the 2006. Yeah, 2006, a
Okay.
company law that guides how you operate, how businesses operate, and meaning that whatever accounting standard, whatever international standards that you have, they will need to actually fit into your national law. They have to be harmonized. We have market regulations, how markets are supposed to be regulated.
Okay.
It could be through a stock exchange commission, through a particular exchange, stock exchange firm or organization. So you have to follow those security exchange rules. So these are what would actually govern a regulatory structure, basically 4 of them.
Regulators.
So taking this particular example direct where you are, when you check on this building, I don't know if you would still be able to recall it. It's right where you are.
Oh, yeah.
And
London.
this is the Financial Services Authority in the
Ah,
UK.
yes.
So if you are looking at the National Financial Reporting Standards, you have the ISB, you have the National Financial Reporting Authority in the UK, the national law, you have the Companies Act of 2006.
Accountability.
Those
Okay.
days when you are in the EU, obviously would even be governed by the EU legislation.
Oh, yes.
Legislation. And all these actually affect accountability in the UK. Market regulations. So you have industry-specific regulatory systems, and those will actually affect the accounting in the UK.
Oh, yeah, the Financial Services Authority.
Yeah, and that is the
Every
building that you're
company,
seeing right there. Hmm?
yeah, every company you call there when they have their recording, just we are part of the Financial Services Authority, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
yeah, because obviously that actually shows their credibility, isn't it?
Oh, yes, actually,
Mhm.
that's a good yes.
Yeah, yeah. So security exchange rules, you have the London Stock Exchange there, and this is for the share for the companies that have listed on the London Stock
London,
Exchange.
oh, yeah.
Yeah, so they have their own regulations and rules that they will have to follow.
Okay.
Yeah. The IFRS Foundation. This is an independent organization. It has 2 main bodies. One, it has a board of trustees and also the International Accounting Standards Board. And we'll go slightly deeper in all this. Then they have the IFRS Advisory Council and the IFRS Interpretations Committee.
Okay.
So responsibilities of the IFRS Foundation trustees, what is their responsibility? What are their responsibilities? One is on the governance and fundraising. They have to fundraise. Trust, because basically these are trustees. It's not like it's a limited company. This is a body of trustees. They
Oh,
need
yeah.
to know how they source for financing. They need to know how to fundraise.
Oh, yeah.
So governance and fundraising, they have to raise the funds necessary to support the IFRS Foundation. Otherwise, they will run broke and close shop. And if they are to come up with ways of fundraising, they need to have the annual budget. So they approve the annual budget of the International Accounting Standards Board. So
Okay.
other than governance and fundraising, raising the fund necessary to support the foundation, they also approve the annual budget for the ISP.
Okay.
These trustees, I guess there must be old men who have actually worked their entire life in the
Oh,
accounting
yeah.
industry, and they have accumulated so much wealth of knowledge, and just busy reading Financial Times and The Economist, yeah, and watching Bloomberg and all these other things. So they raise these funds, obviously approve the budget for the ISP, but they also appoint members of the ISP, of the IFRS committee, IFRS, they have the IC, which is basically these two committees there. They review annual strategy of the IS and its effectiveness. Like I've said, these are old men
Oh, yes.
that have worked their entire life in the accounting, in the
Field.
accounting profession, and they are just tired. But they have something, they've been given something to do and offering leadership. So
Oh,
that's
yes.
what they, yeah. So they'll
So
review this.
so IC and AC, what's the difference?
This basically, there's one, I think it's on the interpretation committee. It's an interpretation, they interpret these
Okay,
activities. Yeah.
okay.
Mm. So they publish annual report on the ISB's activities. So these are the responsibilities of the foundation
Okay.
trustees. Mhm.
I just want to write it. Before maybe
Yes, yeah, that's the beauty. That's the beauty of adult education. You have to multitask here and there.
Oh, yes.
And that's the beauty of learning from me,
Oh,
because it's not a traditional way of actually accessing knowledge.
knowledge. Oh,
So
yeah.
you can afford to do all these other things.
Think okay.
Yeah,
That's true. Thank you.
sure. So now we look at the International Accounting Standard Board.
Okay.
It is basically an independent global accounting standard center based in London. How far are you from London?
So like about an hour. So can I
Oh.
just hold on 1 minute? I'm sorry.
So we were just discussing on the ISB that this is basically an independent global accounting standard center. It's based right where you are, 1 hour away from where you are
Actually, I
in
should
London.
actually go and see exactly where they are.
Yeah.
I live here. I should actually go and see where they are.
Yeah, you should. Mm. So what the ISP does, it develops, obviously in the public interest, we assume so, a
Oh,
single
yeah.
set of high quality, understandable, and enforceable global accounting standards, which are the IFRS, that require transparent and comparable information, general purpose, financial statements. We did actually mention about those three things that we discussed a few minutes ago. We're saying it should be high standard. These standards must be understandable.
And compare.
There should be less room for misinterpretation unless you choose so. They should be enforceable or implementable, so to say. So the ISB also cooperates with national accounting standard setters to achieve convergence or harmonization in accounting standards around the world. So that it becomes easier, one, to compare accounting standards, to compare accounting information from the previous year to your current year, one company to company B, we should be able to compare this. So they should be comparable. So there are 5 stages in which standards are developed. One, they have to set up an advisory committee. So the committee will give advice at all the stages of the process up until the document is now an exposure draft, from an exposure draft until the standard has been refined and published to the stakeholders.
Yes.
So that committee needs to actually check through at each and every stage of the process. So develop and publish a discussion paper. I'll give an example. There are all these others are suggesting that inventory must be regarded as a liability instead of an asset, because when you have inventory, your aim is to sell. But if you are not selling
Yes.
it will actually remain with you.
The
So it
liability.
becomes more of a burden.
You can see it. You can see the sense in that.
Yeah. Unless it's cheese that is still in the process to becoming a product that you can then offload on the market. But otherwise, others are still contending that inventory must be regarded as a liability, as a burden, because the objective of this particular thing is to convert it into cash. So if you are not converting into cash, meaning during that period, it remains a burden. It is definitely going to give you sleepless nights as a business person who's trying to sell something that you're failing to sell.
So, okay. But then in terms of, so basically they're saying that you don't look at it as stock. You remove
as
it from
an asset.
As
it
an
used to
asset.
be stock, but you look at it as stock that you're failing to sell during that period.
I can see that sense in terms of it being a liability. It's true. Because now you are wondering, okay, how do I sell that? Oh, that's rubbish I've got.
Yeah, and someone that you owe money comes to you and says, no, I need my 20 pounds. And I say, no, oh my God, I'm trying to sell this. Once I sell it, that's what I'm going to give you. So at that point, that asset, which is your inventory, which is still your stock in any case, is no longer of value at that point. It is a burden.
Oh yeah, it's not useful.
It's not. So meaning that if you have to advance this particular argument that it should be treated and regarded as a liability, as a current liability, then it has to go through a discussion paper.
Oh, yes.
So they'll actually have it as a discussion topic, which is issued for the public comment. So they'll invite the public to comment.
All right. So do you ever participate? Have you ever seen any of these?
I've seen them. I haven't, but I think now I need to take keen interest. I've seen them. Yeah. So a discussion paper gives an overview of the accounting issue being considered, the potential options for how the issue could be dealt with.
Yeah.
So the first stage we're saying is setting up an advisory committee, those that will actually oversee the process. Secondly is to develop and publish a discussion paper that looks at that topic, like in this case, we're talking about inventory.
Oh, yes.
So from the discussion paper, then now after, because I've invited the public to comment, and you as a public, Zara, you have commented. So the third stage will be now to issue an exposure draft, again for public comment. So after all comments on the discussion paper have been received and they processed, they now refine the document from a discussion paper to an exposure draft, which now includes detailed proposals of how this issue on inventory will be dealt with.
Okay.
So again, they issue it. More people now comment because it has depth. Amend the exposure draft as a result of comments. once published, comments are invited on the proposals in the exposure draft. These comments are actioned, and sometimes a new exposure draft is issued. If no exposure draft is issued, then now you go to the fifth stage where you have a document. Now it's a white paper. It has actually been, it has gone through and you have revised your IFRS. So
Okay.
that is the process. So the process is very easy. You don't even need to memorize. One, you need to have a committee that looks at that. Secondly, you need to have a discussion. It's a discussion paper
Oh, yes.
of that particular issue. Thirdly, is now you have the exposure draft, which then now takes into consideration of all your comments. They refine it and come up with an amended exposure draft. Finally, a standard is issued. Keep it, though, that's it. Isn't it?
Yes. What language is that?
Keep it, though. It's, I think it's Lozi.
Okay. What you're not lost there, right?
I'm not.
Okay. Oh yeah, keep it. Yeah, because I'm thinking, what are you, sorry?
Ira.
Oh, Ila, okay.
Yeah, yourself?
Namwanga.
Okay. And Gonsingo, how do they greet?
Oh,
How do the Namangas greet? I've forgotten.
yeah, okay, mambo.
Okay, let it pass.
Mwakata. Mwakata.
Let it pass. Let it pass.
No, I think it's Mwakata. I speak November and Nyanja. Imagine, I grew up in Osaka.
Okay. Yeah, I grew up in Livingston, but yeah, at least at home we used to speak here. That's why I still speak here. I do speak it.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh, that's nice.
Yeah. Okay, we move on. This is basically the structure. You have all this, the monitoring board, public capital markets. They appoint trustees of the IFRS board. They appoint the IFRS advisory council.
Okay, the structure. Okay, monitor.
Yeah. You have the standard setting board that now sets these particular standards. The trustees of the IFRS, they will review the effectiveness and appoint and finance, informs, and you have all that. Yeah.
Oh. Right.
Okay, so the IFRS Advisory Committee, remember that you have the Interpretation Committee, which is the IC, and you have the Advisory Council, and it gives advice to the ISB on a range of issues, among them input on the ISB's agenda and timetable priorities, advice on projects, particularly practical application and implementation issues. You can come up with these standards, but then there must be a framework that guides you on how that standard is going to be implemented.
Okay.
Inform the ISB of the implications of proposed standards for users and preparers of financial statements. So the advisory committee will do that. I assume that these are also highly experienced people who have worked in the industry, who have prepared these financial statements for bigger and better institutions. So now they're actually using their wealth of knowledge in advising. You can't advise on anything for things that you least understand in life, isn't it?
Oh yeah, no, that's true. No.
That is being overzealous.
Oh yeah.
And sometimes people do that, and you start wondering how.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know. Even in the Bible, Christ uses the people who had certain experience to bring out whatever his point is or whatever he's trying to show as an example.
Yeah.
He won't bring a clean man to come and talk to a thief about him stopping to steal or whatever it is. He'll use the most sinful person.
Oh, do that.
Yeah, to get, so it's the same thing, I guess. You can't, these people who are inexperienced, it wouldn't make sense.
Yeah.
They won't know what they're talking about if you've never done something.
True. But sometimes they do that. Anyway.
Oh yes.
It's an imperfect world.
Oh yes.
Okay, so the IFRS Advisory Council also supports the ISB and the promotion and adoption of these standards throughout the world. That's what the advisory council does. This may include obviously publishing articles, addressing public meetings on the same subjects of areas of focus, areas of controversy. The advisory committee would actually come in and do that. Mhm. So the IFRS Interpretations Committee, first, these are the guys that help us in deciphering or in decrypting these standards so that it becomes easier for us to interpret and make them more usable.
Okay.
So what does this IS committee do? One, it reports to the International Accounting Standards Board. It reviews the current IFRS. Obviously, these standards, when they are created, issued, and implemented, Zara, they may not be foolproof.
Oh, yes.
Anything that has been built by man can be destroyed by man.
Oh,
So
yes.
eventually they start seeing certain vulnerabilities of these standards, and the folks start using them to manipulate financial statements. We have seen it with Enron, we saw it with Permanent Italy, we saw it in almost of all these global scandals. We are coming in because people were able to exploit financial standards, finding those gaps, exploit them, misinterpret them for their own good. So even
Oh,
the
yes.
existing standards, they need once every now and then, they need to be checked, to be
Oh,
tested.
yes.
Mhm. So review new financial reporting issues, and most of these things, they come into life after a backdrop of scandals. So they say, oh, so they exploited this. Can we go and look at it and see how best we can actually tighten it so that it doesn't expose more vulnerabilities that would actually wreck companies?
Oh, yes.
So they'll review these new financial reporting issues, issue guidance on application and interpretation of IFRS. In any case, this is basically a committee that actually looks at interpretations of these standards. So the IFRICs are issued one for newly identified financial reporting issues not specifically dealt with in IFRS issues where unsatisfactory or conflicting interpretations have been developed. Like I've said, where the standard has huge vulnerabilities and has actually created multiple interpretations. So these guys have to come in and fix those problems.
Oh.
One better.
Not bad. Okay.
So we have another organization that
Yes.
actually basically looks at issues of securities.
Okay.
It is the International Organization of Securities Commissions, ISO. So it's a representative of the world securities markets regulators. What are its roles? So after this, I'll send the presentation. I'll send the link to the lecture so that you master these roles and responsibilities. Because in your exam, they will ask one or two, make sure that you get it right. So roles of ISCO, one is encouraging and promoting the improvement and quality of IFRS. So that is one thing they do, making sure that the IFRS are promoted.
Okay.
And how are they promoted? They have to be improved. Those that have vulnerabilities, the interpretations committee must make sure that they fix those bugs.
Okay.
So that we have quality IFRS, which are never taken advantage of by crooked people that have graced this beautiful earth. Resolve issues along with the ISB. So there should be, whenever there are issues that the ISB needs to actually address, these guys also come in and help to resolve these issues. Identifying areas where new ISB standards are needed. remember that they are representative of the world securities. So sometimes they're able to see things that before any other accounting board sees them, because they are right in the mix. So when they see these vulnerabilities coming in, they then now actually consult or bring those issues to the ISB. So there is someone
This doesn't
calling
happen.
the list. Sorry. Okay. Now it's on me now.
Yes, that's okay.
So you're saying identifying areas where new ISB standards are needed. Like I said, these guys are actually on the shop floor. They're able to see how the market is actually behaving, how they are
Okay.
taking advantages of these standards, the vulnerabilities of the standards. So they have to be there to help in fixing most of these bugs around.
Okay.
Then we have the International Integrated Reporting Council that is promoting the use of integrated reporting. And on the side of the company that I work for, we adopted the IRF framework, I think around 2014. We've been using that framework since then. If you even go on our website, you will find those financial statements that actually align to integrated reporting, where we believe that sustainability, financial sustainability of these companies is very key. The focus is not just on the financial sustainability, is actually more diverse, that all companies should not only live for numbers, for the bottom line, for the profits. So there are all these other capitals that you need to look at. So what was identified or what is identified under the IR that a company to be sustainable needs to interact with the 6 capitals. These 6 capitals, you have, say, manufactured capital, where you have, for example, in the area of energy, you have these power stations being built, turbines, penstocks, generators, name them. Those are manufactured assets, manufactured capital. For a company that actually is working in real estate, you'll find that also they have their own manufactured capital. These are things that have been built by man, and they are called manufactured capital. Then you have natural capital. Natural capital, you have the rivers, those are natural capitals. You have forests, those are natural capitals. These are capitals or assets that were actually that are gifted to you by nature. Gifts of nature, isn't it? So those are natural capital, but they have to interact. You have social and relationship capital. For you to derive value in an organization, social and relationship is very important. How do you associate yourself with suppliers, for example, with the community, with the customers? So those social and the relationship capitals are also very key. Then you have intellectual capital. You also have human capital, intellectual capital. These are things that you are now creating, patents and all these other things. Intellectual rights, name them. So when you have all these 6 capitals and you nicely blend them, you then create magic in terms of value creation. And this is what the IR does actually focus on. That do not focus only on profit. There are a number of things you need to look at.
Okay.
So basically, that's their mission and all this integrated thinking. So this is their vision to align capital allocation and corporate behavior to wider goals of financial stability and sustainable development through the cycle of integrated reporting and thinking. And they have all these other things. But in a nutshell, they are actually looking at it. 6 capitals.
Okay. Financial stability and sustainable development. Set reporting and thinking. Mm.
So their sole objective is basically to change the corporate reporting system so that
Yeah.
integrated reporting becomes a global norm. That is what they are looking at. So a few companies, maybe many companies, are adopting that. And Zesco is among those companies that adopted the IRR framework.
Okay. So your financial statements are done based on this.
Yes, so fun time, just fun time. You go on the website, just check,
Yeah, I
download.
will.
Yeah.
I'll-
Sure.
Okay,
Mhm.
I'll do that.
Sure.
Interaction of
So
local-
the interaction of local generally accepted accounting practices, what is the ISB? So, for example, in this country where I am, we have ZICAs and the Chartered Accountants. They interact time and again with this international accounting, with the International Accounting Standards Board. There's close coordination between the ISB and the ZICA or national sectors is important. So the ISB is exploring ways in which to integrate more closely with national process. That's what they're doing. But then again, the advantage is that most of the company, most of the jurisdictions, they are not setting their own standards there. They're just adopting what the ISB is actually churning out to them to the on the market, which actually makes this process much easier and less expensive, so to say. So these relationships, we expect them to grow, or integration to grow, as the relationship between the ISB and national standard sectors evolves. So what are the advantages of adopting IFRS as your local GAAP? One is that IFRS are quick to implement, which reduces the cost involved because they have already done the hard work. They have produced documentations on how you're going to use. It's like plug and play. There's no need to start reinventing a wheel by creating your own standards because you want to show up. But no, as is homegrown standards. You're just wasting your time.
Oh, yeah.
So they are quick to implement and reduces that cost. Easier to adopt standards which have already been developed and tested by renowned and experienced individuals. It facilitates comparability with other countries who use IFRS and their local GAAP, and we have already explained on this one. We did actually explain even that, but why there should be these harmonizations. One from the side of private financing, investors coming in, bringing their own funds, exchange of employees, staff from one jurisdiction to another. We have actually overemphasized on that. But if you come up with your own, no, because us now, 50 or 60 years after independence, I think we can do our own. You just pose a problem for yourself.
Oh, yeah. You'll be left behind.
Yeah, you'll be left behind with your arrogance. So the disadvantage
of adopting
IFRS is your specific local variations that might be needed will not be accommodated because you have adopted this plug and play. So those that you may want to have that are actually aligned to your culture and all these other things might be very difficult to be accommodated. That becomes a disadvantage. But look at it, it's just one among the advantages that we have looked at. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So today's class.
Oh, thank you. Okay, that's your email.
WhatsApp. Mhm.
Oh, yes, did you need my email? Should I put it in the chat or text? Did I text
You
it
can
to
WhatsApp.
you?
WhatsApp, then I'll send
Okay.
send.
All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, but
Oh, wow.
then maybe what I can do, I can still even send it on your WhatsApp, mm, so you
Okay.
can send your WhatsApp
I'll
or I can
just
send. Mhm.
Okay. I'll test my understanding later. I'm going to, because I'll look at my textbook at the end of this chapter.
Mhm. You should actually do
They
that.
they test your understanding. There are some questions. So I'm going to try and answer.
Yeah, you should, and just check how far you are comprehending these issues.
Oh my God.
Mhm.
What is the first one?
Mhm.
Setting standards.
Mhm. So after this, you just sit right. Don't fear making errors. Do as much as you can. Be
Okay.
proud to make errors. The only time you should not be proud to make errors is when you're in the exam room.
Oh
You
yes,
don't be
that's true.
proud. But this time, be proud to make errors
I can
as
afford to
you
do
play.
it. Yes.
Yeah,
It's been a while since I studied.
yeah. So I'll send the link.
Okay.
But what I normally do is after a lesson, there's what I call checking out. So even when you go to a hotel, when you're leaving, you need to check out nicely and all that. So the questions that I would ask you, the question is, how was the class? What did you learn?
Yeah.
What is your impression? And all these other things. You're checking out.
Okay, sorry, you cut off a bit. You were saying like at
Yes,
a
someone
hotel you
understands.
check out.
Yeah. So what I was saying that even when you're leaving a hotel, you need to check out. You need to fill in some forms that now I'm done, I'm going. So what I'm asking is, what was the impression of this curriculums? What did you learn? What is all those intangibles?
Oh, in terms of what? Oh, the class was really, I mean, the class was really good. You explain in detail and you explain very well and in a way that is easy to understand. And to be honest, I think I did try and read this topic on my own and it was very boring. But after listening to you, I'm actually really interested. You make it very exciting and very easy to understand. I actually even want to go and visit London and see where all these financial places are. And it's given me a better understanding actually of how these things work in terms of how important the board is, these standards, how they fit in, even just with the work environment. Even now when I start looking at the numbers at work, whether it's the P&L, okay, although my role at the moment is very much internal, it's for the internal stakeholders, management, but even then, obviously we follow certain rules on how you produce certain information, how you show that information. So it's given me it's been really, really good. I mean, even
So,
the first lesson, when we had the first lesson,
yeah.
I called my sister and I said, wow, this, like, I've met this gentleman that's really inspired me. I think I'm going to do very well.
Sure. So tomorrow, what time do we? Around the same time or what?
What time will work for you?
No, I'll be just home in the morning. It's a Saturday. I'll be home in the morning.
Okay.
And I
So do
prefer
you,
morning session. Yeah.
yes, morning is fine. So
Mm,
same time. Okay, so that would be 10 my time and 11 your time. That's fine.
mm.
Are you okay with that?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, yes, that will work. And
Okay.
then when I come to Zambia, I'll come and see you. It will be brief, but at least
Yeah.
come and meet you in person.
Not a problem. To be my pleasure. So to say.
Okay.
Mm.
All right.
Thank you so
Okay.
much and see you tomorrow. Bye bye.
Yes, see you tomorrow. Have a nice day.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye. Bye.